What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you guys are having great holidays so far, or a great December, or a great end of 2025, or wherever you are when you're watching this video. But we're going to be doing in this video a kind of review for 2025, the best fusions of 2025. We're just going to talk about the fusions that happened during this year alone. We will rank them in accordance to a couple different factors. Now, obviously, some of these ratings are going to be a bit subjective. I'm going to try my best to kind of incorporate the idea of the general player base, how impactful this champion has been for the overall game, how impactful this champion has been for my accounts, other people's accounts that I've seen, how impactful they can be for people's accounts. And like I said, I'm going to try to view this from a lens of the, overall player base and not just as somebody that obviously tackling the end game content. Also keep in mind that even though if a champion is not rated particularly highly, it does not mean they are bad for your account, specifically in your progress levels. It's more so of a comparison of how good they are against all the champions in the entire game. So with that methodology explained, hopefully I can put together this tier list in a coherent way. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so here is the list of champions that we've had as fusion champions in this game. Now, I'm going to exclude things like Titan events and all that stuff, even though Titan events are technically almost like fusions anyways, but these are official fusions in the game for 2025. And in terms of the overall grading category here, we have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier. S tier are basically just champions that are generally just considered very good in all areas of the game. They're basically game-changing champions in some area for some accounts, maybe most accounts. A tier is a little bit below that. B tier, I would say, is generally about average. C tier, below average, and then D tier, basically vault level champions. So hopefully that explains the grading system a little bit here. So let's first start off with the actually current fusion as of time of this upload, and that is going to be Yukimasa. So Yukimasa here, Demon of Ice. Shadowkin's first kind of usable reviver. They have a couple other revivers that are like kind of bad, but Yukimasa is definitely not a bad champion. He's very decent. He's got an A1 AoE attack with the block active skills, actually very good at shutting down a lot of key attacks. He's got an A2 here with the AoE freeze ability, which is really good. And also this is the ability with the revive. Unfortunately, the revive is a random target revive, and the team revive has a condition of him killing somebody. So that's not always going to happen. So at base value, you're going to get a random ally to get revived every 3 turns. I mean, this is a really strong ability even with a random ally revive. His A2 here is a turn meter steal with a big hit potentially. It has a defense equalizing mechanic, which is a bit of a first in this game, which is pretty okay. His passive here has a turn meter boost if he is coming out of a hard CC. And if he misses a turn, his next attack will be a big one. So generally speaking, he is supposed to be built as a damage dealer with some support abilities. It's interesting. He has a flexible kit. He's able to be played in other areas of the game that some nukers can't even enter. So Yukimasa is generally considered a better than average nuker, in my opinion, with some support abilities. Now for me, even though Yukimasa is pretty special for the Shadowkin, he's not necessarily an insane champion. He can't hit particularly hard. His support skills are not particularly insane, but they are good. And then package it all together into a champion with pretty low, base HP, can't really play as a support and all that. So he's generally going to be played as a attack-based damage dealer. I think he's going to fit pretty firmly into the A category for me. He's a good champion, but he's not going to be a massive game-changing account carry champion. And he's probably not going to be able to carry you in the way that you really, really want those S tier champions to carry you in. So moving on to our next champion on the list, and that is going to be Kroz Wallbreaker. He's going to be from the Ogren tribes. Here he is, Ogren tribes. He kind of looks like an orc to me. I don't know. He kind of looks like an orc. I usually think of him as an orc first. Kroz Wallbreaker. So he's a bomb champion from the Ogren tribes here. He's pretty quick, 110 base speed. He's got an A1 here with the chance to decrease the detonation timer, which is kind of nice. He's got an A2. This is his big money-making ability. He's got a 4-turn cooldown, AoE bombs, 2 turns. It's a placement, so that's kind of nice, so no affinity issues. And then he gets a turn meter fill for each bomb that he places. The big problem here is that when he places the bombs, it's on 2-turn duration. So theoretically, he could land the bombs and they never go off, and then your team loses. So that's kind of like the big drawback. Because when you want a damage dealing champion, when they get a turn and then they attack, you want that attack to do something. So for him, this potentially does nothing, which is really bad. So he's got an A3 here, which is pretty good as well. It decreases the detonation cooldown here, which is what you really want to have going on after you place A2. And then he has the block active skills as well, which kind of shuts down the enemy's response. But unfortunately, he doesn't get an extra turn mechanic on his A2, only a turn meter fill, and that doesn't guarantee him an extra turn, which is the big drawback here. Now, the biggest positive for him is that this is a placement, so he doesn't have affinity issues. For the Ogren tribes, he's actually a decent damage dealer, so for faction wars, he's definitely useful. However, for general purposes, general areas, he's not great against bombs. He's significantly worse than Nishak, for example, because Nishak does have boss killing abilities with his poisons, with his boosted damage per bombs against bosses, with his basically extra turn mechanic as well. He's just generally a better champion when compared to Kroz. So I think for me, personally speaking, I haven't even summoned my Kroz yet, even though I do need some help on my Ogren tribes. But I don't think he's necessarily going to be any kind of game-changing champion for any real account. But he's going to be a decent support champion in some teams that can help him stay alive so that he can actually get his extra turns back. But he's going to be a secondary DPS most likely. Anyways, with that all said, I'm going to put him in the C category as a below average champion. Generally speaking, for most of the champions in Raid, his overall usability definitely holds him back. Now, moving on to our next champion here, we have Maria Sangua. Bloody Mary here. Where's Maria? There we go. She was a competing fusion during the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab event. So you have to spend resources to get her or spend resources to get the turtles. So even though she seemed pretty good in the test server footage, I would say a lot of people held back the resources to get the turtles and left her on the back burners. Now for her, she has a good attack-based stat here. She's attack-based damage dealer, boosted crit damage here as well. She's a little bit RNG-ish because she does rely on extra turns. She does have this interesting mechanic here on her passive where she deals more damage every hit, and then it resets after basically the third extra hit, and then you have another A3 and the A2 also benefit from multiples of threes, and they both do different things. So you get extra turn here if the number of buffs is divisible by 3. So now it's talking about buffs, and then here it's actually going to give you a benefit if you use this skill when it's on the turn number that's divisible by 3. So there's a lot of things going on. There's no in-game counter for all of this. She deals great damage when everything aligns properly, and then her effects give you massive value as well. There's a 3-turn cooldown, ignores target's defense by 99%. It also ignores stone skin and block damage. So it's a massive slap, but you just can't keep track of everything, to be honest. And she has a revive ability here as well on her passive. She's a cool champion, cool damage dealer, has extra turn mechanics, can slap quite hard. But I think not a lot of people got her just because they were saving resources for Leonardo and all that. But with that all being said, she's actually a really good wave clearing champion. She's not great against bosses anymore because she was nerfed or fixed or whatever to her intended use so that she's not OP against bosses. But she does do pretty good against waves, and then she's actually very strong in PvE and PvP content if you actually get her going in a good build. Definitely a high skill, high RNG champion, but lots of potential for her. I'm going to put her in the A category just because she is a very cool champion, very cool mechanic, and she does bring quite a bit of power when things all align properly. All right, moving on to our next champion here, we have Granite Doorkeep from the Dwarves faction. Now, Granite Doorkeep, again, this guy was a fusion during the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab. There was actually a couple fusions during that collab. It seemed like it was going on forever. But Granite Doorkeep here, he was kind of highlighted as an HP-based damage dealer. I mean, he's far from doing the most damage. He's not insane for damage, but he has a lot going on in his kit. His A1 steals stuff, steals random buff, ignored target's defense. His steals very, very consistent, so he's going to get some steals off here. It's a triple hit too, so triple hits can have additional benefits. His A2, 3-turn cooldown, places increased accuracy and then decreased defense and block buffs. This is the best, probably the best in the business for this kind of ability. Decreased defense with the block buffs, 3-turn cooldown, places increased accuracy. This is very good, very good. If you value this move set, it's very strong on him. One of the best in the business. And then, like I said, on his A3, also brings some additional damage here. Shatter, increased crit damage. These are really good buffs. Just generally speaking, it gives the widest range of champions a damage boost, which is amazing. And then he ignores a bunch of stuff that's PvP related. For him to be used in PvP, you have to have a very specific use for him because he's not your typical nuker. He's not your typical very strong nuker, but you can use this ability just for the shatter and increase crit damage for like a team setup, for like Hydra setup, for example. So very useful there. His passive will help him kick out some of this hard CC stuff, and then he does get a damage boost on him for a little bit. But that's not going to be the biggest thing about him. The biggest thing about him is that he lands relevant debuffs, high value ability, and he lands high value damage buffs for a wide range of champions. Now this champion is very solid. Again, he's probably skipped quite a bit during the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab because everyone was saving up for the turtles. But he's a good champion. He's just not a damage dealer. Think of him as a support champion, and then you will not be disappointed. He's a very strong champion. I use him in some content as well, mainly for a Hydra, just because he does bring quite a bit of utility. So I like him. I think he's going to go in the A tier as well for me. Just a general strong champion. All right, moving on to our next champion. This is in chronological order, going from the most recent up until the end. So let's move on. Our next fusion here is going to be Donatello. So he was the first fusion during the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle collab. And yeah, the first of the turtles to be offered, to be gotten, I think. I guess Michelangelo was the first one, but Donatello, here he is. Yeah, he's a sport champion. He's magic base. He has good base stats overall. Lots of stats everywhere. HP, attack, defense. 108 base speed, so he's pretty quick. Not the quickest, but one of the quickest. And yeah, just an amazing support champion here. He's got an A1. He's got a team heal and an activation on the continuous heals. He's got an A2 here with a 4-turn cooldown. It's an AoE attack, increased speed with decreased cooldown by 2 turns. Not the best in the game, but it's very strong. 5D has a 3-turn reduction on this. So, you know, it's a little bit stronger, and 5D is a void champion. But Donatello here as a fusion, this is a very, very strong ability. And then he has a 3-turn cleanse on his A3 with the continuous heal, strengthen, and a turn meter boost. So very, very strong. And his passive is also very good. He joins in with the turtles, which is a standard thing for all the turtles. But his active effect on a 4-turn cooldown is also very good. It keeps one of your champions alive, the one that dies first, with a equalizing effect. Very, very strong support champion. He's going to be the first S tier champion on my list. I think in general, he's an amazing champion for many, many accounts. Early game, mid game, late game, end game accounts will use this champion as well. You can build him fast, very flexible for builds, no accuracy required. And yeah, just a great, survivability passive. Turn meter boost here. He can be a turn meter booster for you. He can be a cleanser for you. Increased speed, cooldown, can be damage boosting as well because of the cooldown reduction. Just an amazing champion. Very, very strong. Only thing he's lacking is damage, but he's going to boost the damage of your team. So for me, very, very strong champion. So let's move on to our next champion here, and then we have Tholan. Tholan was part of the campaign before the Ninja Turtles, the Chaos Awakes campaign that lasted for a couple months, but he was the main fusion, I believe, during that campaign. So Tholan here, he was offered as a free champion, I think for brand new accounts. There's a promo code to pick up Tholan. Crazy high base attack here, 1674. This champion is actually quite good. His A1 is an AoE, chance to land weaken, and he's going to get an extra turn if he lands the weaken on all enemies. It's not 100% chance to land the weaken, it's only 50% chance. You're going to gain an additional 25% chance to land weaken on these alliances, Corrupted Alliance, boss, or minion. And this effect cannot be resisted by enemies from the Corrupted Alliance, bosses, or minions. So you don't need to necessarily build accuracy on him to land the weaken. But it's not 100% chance to land, but it's nice that it's an AoE, so it's really good. His A2 is a single target double hit, ignores a bunch of defense, ignores more defense if they're under the Corrupted Alliance, boss, or minion. Each hit decreases the target's attack by 5%. Each hit also increases this champion's attack by 5%. So over time, he will soften up how much damage the boss will do against you, for example, and he will get stronger as well the more he uses this ability. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. And then his A3 here, attack all enemies twice before attacking, places increased attack on himself, which is amazing. Self-buffing. For each crit landed, increase the damage dealt by the second hit by 10%. Ignores, unkillable, and shields. So every time he crits, so you're going to build him with 100% crit, and yeah, he's going to increase his damage quite a lot on his second hit, and he's already self-buffing himself with the increased attack. His passive here activates Demon Breaker skill every 5th turn. So he will use his A1 every 5th skill this champion takes. And he also prevents these alliances and minions from critting him. Although his base stats are not high, he won't survive even non-crits often, so it's not a big draw for his passive. But this is a really nice ability here. Every 5th turn he will land his AoE, and that's just AoE weekend. He hits quite hard, especially when he ramps up his plus attack here, and he gets plus attack on himself. So very good for longer fights against single target bosses. Will be pretty good against somebody like the clan boss, for example. So Tholan actually becomes quite a strong champion or candidate for you to pick up early with promo codes, for example. He's actually quite good. He also brings wave clearing abilities as well, which is also very needed for brand new accounts. So he's going to be very good for that as well. Generally speaking, he just kind of brings damage. He does bring a little bit of utility with the weekend, and then he softens up the enemy boss a little bit by making them hit less hard. But generally not going to be super useful for team building. He's just generally like a wave clear, a little bit of a boss utility champion. But I think he's still good enough that he belongs in the A tier category. He's a good fusion. He's a good champion. He's a good first champion, especially if you're picking up from a promo code. So I think an A tier rating there for Tholan definitely makes sense. Moving on to our next champion here, and then it's going to be Titus Blackplume here, Void Affinity, a champion from the Banner Lords. Now this champion was during the Chaos Awaits campaign, and yeah, he's definitely touted and delivered on what we were expecting during the test servers. Now his ability here, he has a big A2 ability that scales damage off of the size of the shields. Also lands Provoke as well. His A1 blocks active skills. His A2 is self-buffing, or you can buff somebody else, and gives a bit of turn meter boost. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. It's actually a pretty decent ability. And his passive is also very decent as well, boosting the damage of your allies. So this ability actually activates passively, which is really nice. But the big thing about him is that his A2 deals big hit damage off of the size of the shield. And this was a problem with how Wixwell was interacting with some of the other champions back in the day. It would create some really crazy hits with champions with big shields. This is going back to like the Infinity teams and all that. And now Titus brings it back with this ability. Now we brought this up with the developers and Plarium and all that stuff, and we're like, hey, is this supposed to be working as intended? And they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, it is. And then they released it as is, and they haven't fixed it yet, which is fine because we all invested in it so far. But yeah, it's not. So it hasn't been fixed, or shouldn't be fixed, or whatever, but it's in the game right now. Titus changed the landscape of everything. Hydra teams, Chimera teams, Chimera points, Hydra points. It's all skyrocketed ever since Titus came into the scene. Just amazing champion for just overall damage output. And because he is a fusion and not somebody like Trunda where you have to pull from a shard, and because he has Void Affinity, he definitely allows more people to hit more things for a lot of damage that they were not previously. Also, building him out is quite easy because he doesn't need crit rate. He doesn't need resistance in some of the most popular teams, but you basically just stack him up with crit damage and let him loose, and then he can hit pretty big. So Titus, definitely a game changer, a meta changer. Definitely one of the best champions, one of the best fusions of this year for sure. So I'm going to put him in the S tier, account changing, game changing champion. And it's all because of this A2, and it's all because of Wixwell, to be honest. Wixwell creating those big shields for everybody, and he benefits a lot from that. All right, moving on from Titus here, we got Leanthier from the High Elves. Just going to check him out here. You guys might not have forgotten about Leanthier, this poor guy. Was not highly touted when he was first announced here. 1542 base defense. He is defense based. Damage dealer, 63% crit damage here. He's got an A1 self-buffing with the increased crit damage. Also places Hex as well. He's got an A2 here, double hit, chance to repeat the attack. Whenever this champion counterattacks or teams up with allies, he attacks with this ability. This ability actually hits pretty decent. So if he's going in with a lot of counterattacks, a lot of ally attacks, his damage can definitely add up. He's got an A3 here, which is actually the most useful against Hydra. He's got the decreased speed and weaken. On a single ability on a 3-turn cooldown, that's very, very useful. Decreased speed and weaken are definitely very highly sought after debuffs for Hydra. His passive here is interesting. He ignores life barrier and ally protection. So obviously a targeted Hydra specialist. He does have defense boosting as well on his passive. Does he hit hard? Not necessarily. His damage can ramp up over time, over a long fight. He can help you release champions from life barrier and ally protection, but it's such a specific use case. And there's probably just better champions nowadays to invest in. However, he does bring some useful debuffs. These are very useful debuffs. Not all accounts will have lots of decrease speed champions, lots of weakened champions. So Leanthier definitely can be helpful for some accounts, and he does bring a little bit of damage. So even if you just use him for the debuffs and then gear him for damage, he's going to put out a little bit more damage than just a pure support champion. So I would put him somewhere around average, maybe above, slightly above average. Like if I were to rate him out of 100, I would say maybe like 55. He definitely is kind of useful, but not for, you know, damage. But if you can value his debuffs, then he's going to be more useful for you. So I'm going to put him in the B tier. You might find some use for him on your account. So moving on to our next champion here, we have a orc-based champion, and he's going to be the dog, the long-awaited dog, Kro'khad the Throatripper. This was the dog that was promised when Shaik was introduced the year before. It took a year for him to come, but when he came, 1729 base attack is what he came with. Very, very impressive base attack, very high base attack. And yeah, this champion did not disappoint. I want to say that right now. This champion did not disappoint. By himself, he is totally fine. Totally a usable champion, can hit pretty hard. He's got an A1 attack. All champions here will ignore reflect and ally protection, pain link. So he's great for like Hydra auto battles and all that. And of course, he's going to deal double damage if he is counterattacking with Shaik on the team, which is insane. And then he's got an A2 here with the 3-turn cooldown. He's going to play Leech and Weaken. And then he's going to give an extra hit for enemies under 2 or more debuffs, which probably could happen relatively frequently. This attack hits super hard, especially with the double hit. And then this attack, this A3, actually is crazy hard hitting as well. Ignores 50% of the target's defense as well as life barrier and poison cloud. So again, Hydra specific conditions there, and effects that redirect the damage or debuffs to another target. Repeat the attack if Packmaster is on the team. So a double hit with this is absolutely nuts, especially with Packmaster on the team. And his passive here is, you know, self-buffing with increased attack, and he has a instant activate of the A3 if the Hydra head devours an ally if Packmaster Shaik's on the team. So I played him without Shaik, and I played him with Shaik. With Shaik, he is no doubt a S tier champion. Without Shaik, I would say he's probably an A tier champion. Personally, for myself, this guy absolutely transformed my account. Some of the hardest stages, this guy was able to push me well beyond what I was capable of before. So for example, hard faction wars, I put this guy with Shaik, and he actually just mowed down the last like 7 levels of the faction. I used this guy in several hard levels in Centranos, and he absolutely just mowed down the waves. So for me, this guy is absolute game changer. I would put him in the S tier if he was with Shaik, and if he was not with Shaik, I would put him in the A tier. But I'm going to say with Shaik, he is absolutely insane. I'm going to put him in the S tier for now. All right, moving on to our next champion here, we have from the Shadowkin Warriors. So Shadowkin here, we have Ishiyama. Ishiyama the Immovable. Now this fusion was probably the least liked or least hyped up for maybe this year, I would say. He's got the flaming burning balls in his hand, and he's going to be HP based damage dealing champion. He's got an A1 double hit transfer debuff from this champion to the target. He's also got an A2 AoE, places fear, decrease crit damage, decrease crit rate on all enemies for 2 turns. These debuffs cannot be resisted by enemies who are already under 2 or more debuffs. He's on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, the thing about this is that people were saying that these could be useful because these are debuffs that not many people have. True, that is true, right? So until there's content that specifically requires you to have decreased crit damage, decreased crit rate, or fear, then you know, this guy will have some value. But right now, these are not super valuable. For example, PvE content, they already have low crit rate. Fear is not necessarily the best, you know, CC, and it requires accuracy from him. So unless you're building him as a support champion, he's not going to have too much accuracy. So, you know, and this is probably not going to be too useful in Arena, for example. His A3 here, single target hit ignores a bunch of defense, will ignore more defense if they're under 2 or more debuffs. Also places block damage buff on himself for 2 turns if he kills somebody. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. This could be serviceable. It doesn't hit particularly hard, unfortunately. So that definitely hurts him as well. He is HP based damage dealer. His passive here, whenever an enemy resists a debuff attempt from this champion, the next debuff placed by this champion cannot be resisted. That's a nice little touch. Each debuff placed by this champion increases max HP by 3%. So at least he can stack up his damage with the debuffs placed, so he can actually do better in longer fights. But yeah, he just doesn't hit hard enough. This ability doesn't hit very hard. Lands a bunch of crowd control, but you need accuracy to land all this, or you need some kind of setup beforehand. So personally speaking, I don't find him particularly useful. Maybe like this is like an epic level kit almost. So I would say he's definitely below average. I'm going to put him there with Kroz. Perhaps he could be useful in faction wars just to help you with some crowd control, maybe a bit of damage. But Shadowkin might not have been the best spot for him in this kit. So moving on to our next champion here, we have the 6th anniversary champion, Fabian from the Undead Hordes. Now, Fabian, basically the second coming of Armanz. Armanz came a year before, and then now this year we had Fabian. Fabian, absolutely incredible champion. His kit just reads as bonkers, and it performs as nuts as it sounds. So 109 base speed here. He has all sorts of weird stat distribution here. 1200 attack. I mean, it's pretty high attack for a support champion. His A1 is going to be a double hit. It's a turn meter steal. His A2, this one's really nasty. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, and it's going to petrify one enemy, and it's placing true fear on everybody. Very nasty, and the passive effect is very nasty as well. Whenever the enemy kicks out of any kind of fear, he's going to go in with the A2 and petrify them. Very, very nasty. And then his A3, also very nasty ability on a 4-turn cooldown, is an AoE attack. Has 100% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs by 3 turns. This means that he can remove the stone skin without actually removing it. And then will grant an extra turn if there's no buffs on the enemy, and then he can come back in and petrify everybody, which is nuts. And then he also has a 100% chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills by 3 turns. Now, obviously, cooldown reduction is less powerful because we have mythical champions in the game that counter this. But Fabian has all sorts of stuff in his kit. He has the stone skin removal, he has the lockout, he has the hard CC, he has a turn meter drop, and then his passive prevents him from banning crowd controlled himself, which is nuts. And he has further problems when you revive. So when you revive, he places fear on you, which just gives you more problems, and it gives him an opportunity to come in with his A2 and petrify you as well. Speed in all battles also gets him more brownie points as well, especially in arena and siege and all that. So great champion, absolutely easy S tier champion. Was a game changer, meta changer for the arena, gave a lot of low spenders, free to play players access to a top tier support champion that can be used against obviously some more powerful champions. All right, moving on to our next champion fusion here is going to be Esme. Esme from the Barbarian faction. She has a partner bonus with Modo from the Ogren faction. She brings speed in all battles, which is nice. 113 base speed, very nice. Biggest knock against her is probably this ability here on a 4-turn cooldown. It's not the best value. Increased accuracy, increased speed. If this was a 3-turn, maybe with a turn meter boost for a 4-turn would be nice. She does bring weaken and block buffs, which is useful against Hydra, for example, which is fine. And her A1 is actually really good. It's going to be a team-wide increased attack buff on the A1. Now, this works if she ally attacks in. So that's going to be really, really good if you can get her to do that. But she can be very, very strong in some places that require a bunch of different things. Because she's first a debuffer, and then she's a buffer. She brings 3 buffs, right? And then she can bring debuffs as well. So if you need her to be good or flexible in some areas, for example, Grim Forest, she could be a pick for you there, right? Her passive is also very interesting as well on a 1-turn cooldown. Whenever a champion is hit, or this champion is hit, sorry, Esme, increase the turn meter of the ally with the highest attack by 50%. So this pushes your damage dealer, quite ahead, right? So if she gets hit, it pushes your damage dealer quite ahead so that they can get a turn. And she has a small chance here of changing the attacker's crit hits to weak, normal, and strong. It only applies to her though, but it's a little bit of an interesting attack, so it's always a bit of a risk to attack into her. Personally speaking, I think she does quite a lot, but nothing particularly amazing. So personally speaking, I think she can definitely be useful, especially with the speed in all battles as well. Increased accuracy is also really good for things like bomb champions, but I haven't really seen too much use from her for myself, for my own accounts, or I have not seen too many people talk about using her in too many different ways. So for those reasons, I think she is a B tier, slightly above average champion, but not going to be any kind of significant use for most accounts. All right, and the last fusion, or the first fusion of 2025, and that is going to be from the Undead Hordes. And that is going to be, excuse me, not the Undead Hordes, from the Night Revenant, the Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter was the first fusion of 2025. Yeah, really strong champion. Just reading his kit reads well and he performs really well. And then we found actually even more ways to actually utilize this guy. His A1 double hit has a chance to debuff spread, not too impressive on its own. His A2 here attacks all enemies, places Hex and Weaken, and then of course he brings in the ally with the highest crit damage to join in on the attack. There's a bunch of champions that have this on abilities and they all perform well. So Mad Hatter, when he was first announced and then he showed this ability, we're all like, okay, this guy's going to do quite well. And yeah, this does not disappoint. And then this ability here gives him a lot of flexibility, and this probably includes him in more teams than we thought he would have been, especially after Titus was introduced. So he increases the duration of all buffs, which is great. These buff extender champions are always going to find a use case because shields exist and all that. Decrease the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn, and then turn meter fill by 20% on a 3-turn cooldown. Very good ability. His passive also very good. Every 10 turns taken by allies, he puts out a heal, and then every 6 turns taken by enemies places a true fear. Very nasty ability, very good for waves and all that. Accuracy and all battles. Good base stats overall, really high base stats. And yeah, he's very good. Funny story about this guy is that he's actually the first fusion that I messed up on one of my accounts. I fell asleep and I missed the dragon threshold by like, I don't know, 1 run or something. So I missed out on that Mad Hatter, but on that account, I ended up pulling him from Ancient Shard eventually a couple months down the line. So really happy it kind of worked out for me there, luckily, because this is a great champion. You did not want to miss out on this guy. So for me, I think general use case, how good he is, and for other accounts, I think he can be great for just general use for even progressing accounts because of his passive. He provides heals, CCs, turn meter boost here as well, extra damage from Hex and Weaken. I think he's great. I think he belongs in the S tier, maybe a low S tier and all that, but he's still going to be up there as one of your most used champions once you get him. Now I'm going to take a quick look at this final tally here, and I'm going to rejig them amongst themselves, and then we'll see what it looks like in the end. All right, guys, so this is the final tally of everybody from 2025, all the fusions and all that. I did place them in their respective places in relation to each other. So I do value Fabian as the top fusion of this year. I do think he stands a little bit above the rest. I think they're all amazing. But the way Fabian is so highly picked in Arena, how he changes everything, how he's still relevant, even though he has a little bit of a handicap against mythicals, he's still incredibly good, and I use him all the time, and I think anybody that has him would be using him as well. So I do consider him the best fusion of 2025. Now the second pick for the second best fusion of 2025, I have Donatello. Donatello, I think, like I said, he's incredibly flexible to use. You can build him in many different ways. He doesn't require accuracy, so he's easy to build, just HP and speed, and he's very good. He's going to be good for so many different players, and I just think he's an amazing champion. And of course, he is time limited exclusive, which probably increased his appeal to people when he was around. So after that, we do have Titus. Now Titus is the kind of controversial pick here, I think, because Titus definitely, can be argued to be the best fusion of 2025. But would would Plarium be completely different, or would your account be completely different without Titus? I mean, because you have Titus, somebody else has Titus, and therefore all the points kind of go up in the same way, go up together. Does Titus handle progression content? No, not really, right? He's kind of just there for the boss damage, for the clan boss, for clan clash damage. But like I said, your damage goes up, somebody else's damage goes up. It's all relatively the same. I do think he's definitely was game changing, meta changing for everything, especially for clashes. But in terms of overall progression for even just regular players, and especially by himself, he's not going to be as strong. So that holds him back from the top spot for the year. I do like Mad Hatter. He's very good for general use, good for general accounts. He does get quite a bit of a boost from Titus and of course the Wixwell type teams. I do like Kro'khad, but Kro'khad's going to be not as good without Shayak. But with Shayak, he's absolutely insane. Like I said, for my account, he definitely pushed me up quite a bit. After that, for the A tiers, I think they're all relatively the same. They all kind of do slightly different. I think Maria is a bit of a stronger damage dealer than Tholan, for example, but Tholan's still very strong. Granite and I think Yukimasa, they're more support, less damage. And I think Esme is a little bit better than Leanthier, although Leanthier is still pretty okay. And then Kroz and Ishiyama. I think Ishiyama is just not going to find a spot right now. He doesn't deal enough damage. His debuffs are just not very good. And then Kroz, I think, is a little bit better. That's why he's ahead of Ishiyama in the bottom tier. Mainly because he's in a really, really weak faction that needs any kind of damage they can get. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your opinions are on this list. What do you think is the best fusion of 2025? What are your hopes for 2026? Like I said, like I've shown in this video, there's a lot of really strong fusions here. And if you guys manage to skip a lot of these, you guys probably push your account, maybe progress a little bit behind. But it's really hard to blame the players because there's just so many good fusions. But hopefully you guys picked up at least a couple of these fusions. So hopefully they will be helpful for your account. Let me know actually which champion actually pushed your account the most if you have multiples of these champions. I'll be interested to hear that as well. Thanks for watching until the end, guys. Appreciate you all. Have a great day and see you guys in the next video.